Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time before we start our council meeting to recognize special individuals, organizations, and particular events that occur here in the city of Pearland. And one of the big blessings that we have as the city of Pearland is our quality YMCA. And this has been a boon to us and represents a very quality organization that has produced so many events for us and has helped the city in so very many ways along with the citizens in our community. We're very proud tonight to have a visit from our Youth YMCA Government Program group here to make us a presentation. And to lead this off, I'd like to ask Authorize to step up to the podium and let us begin our program for tonight. And thank you for being here tonight.
So I'm Ashish Dave. Actually, I'll leave the rest of the presentation for Ayush. But good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Ashish Dave. I'm 18 years old and I'm a senior at Glenda Dawson High School. I am the executive vice president of the Youth and Government program here through the Vic Coppinger YMCA. And so I'm just here to tell you a little bit about youth and government, what we do, and why it's so important for all of you sitting here on this Monday evening to listen to this program and what it's about. So basically, youth and government, it's been around for about 70 years now through the YMCA, YMCAs across the nation. It's a program that frankly replicates government like no other program. I mean, it's a competition for members and students to get involved and try out their hand in politics and in government. There are three main branches for competitors to compete in: the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and then media and lobbying. And so as a competitor in this program, you have the opportunity to either write bills, to debate cases, real life cases in district, appellate and circuit courts, or be a member of the media, be a journalist, write reports, be a lobbyist for the governor, for the governor's cabinet. And so coming into this program, I was skeptical about its benefits, but I can say now after about 2.5 years that it is frankly the best training for a young adult to learn about what it means to be in government. You have the opportunity through this program to actually go to the Texas Capitol and debate your bills in the Texas House of Representatives and in the Texas Senate. Stand where Joe Strauss stands and presides, stand where Dan Patrick stands. I mean, what other program affords you this opportunity? And so when we talk about YMCA Youth and Government, it's really about investing in the civic education of our youth, something that I feel today is neglected more than ever. People have a conception or a visualization of youth these days that they're not invested politically, that they're not necessarily passionate about the issues that are going on in our nation. But I can tell you, looking at these kids and the kids that participate in the Youth and Government program, that there are kids definitely who care. These kids strive to debate the issues that matter to them, like education, college, and real life issues too, like gun rights, taxation, commerce, infrastructure, you name it. And so this program affords kids the avenue to debate that and engage in parliamentary debate, learn what it means to preside over a court, and learn how to publish stories. And whatever avenue you choose to do it, I think it's a beautiful thing. And so what I'm here to convey is how important it is to invest in programs like YMCA Youth and Government. Because when you invest in the civic education of your youth, you're investing in your community. I mean, these kids are going to be the future leaders here in this city, in the state, and in this nation. And it's important to inculcate the values that we cherish as a people, that we are blessed to have. We take for granted what it means to live in a society where you can express your views, debate them freely and openly. But this program encourages kids to get out there and speak about what matters to them. And so with that, I would really encourage, and I commend my brother here. He helped me start this program up. Miss Suzanne Murray over at the YMCA has done a fantastic job promoting it. And then the support we received from the city, particularly the Chamber of Commerce last fall, helped us raise about $4,200 to send 22 kids to state. So it's support like that that really goes far to building the future of our community. And so, again, very thankful to be here today and talk a little bit about what this program's about. I think Ayush, the new youth governor of Texas, has a few remarks as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that introduction. Hello, my name is Ayush Dave. I'm Ashish's brother. It's great to be here this evening, and I'd just like to give you a little background about our club. And so we're based out of Dawson High School, and my brother and I, seeing that the Vic Coppinger YMCA didn't have as strong of a youth and government program 2 years ago, decided to try our hand at starting a club at Dawson High School. And 2 years later, we went from 0 members to 22 members and a thriving chapter. And now we're not only a club, but we're a breeding ground for civically minded youth and high-achieving students. So these students don't go home and they're not aimless. They're coming to practice, they're debating, they're writing bills, and they're talking about issues that are important to everyone. And though we have a relatively short history, we are very decorated. So in our first year, we won 2 Outstanding Statesman Awards at the state conference, which is basically first place in either the Senate or the House. And then this year we had a President pro tempore of the Senate, and with the help of my buddies, I was able to get elected to the youth governorship of Texas. So I'd really like to commend them for that, and then I'd like to pass it on to each one of them. And as civically minded youth, we'll all say a little tidbit about how youth and government motivates us to be active in our community.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Divyam Bansal, and I would also like to personally thank you all for coming out tonight and showing your support for this wonderful program. This past fall, I joined the Youth and Government program for the first time. I was a little reluctant, but it's safe to say now that it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. A couple months ago, me and 21 other delegates, some of which could not make it today, went to the 72nd Annual Conference in Austin, Texas. Not only was this a fun time where I could socialize with my friends and meet new people, but it was also a unique learning experience. Throughout the conference, I got to witness live debates between potential officers and cast my vote for whom I thought would be the best leader and candidate to improve and enhance the youth and government program. I got to see live oh my goodness, sorry. I got to see live debates between bills. Live debate between bills, and see also that many people who care about the current issues in Texas are willing to stand up there and go cut throat and also like describe how they feel about current issues. I got to meet many new people and talk to them about their bills and just sit down and get to know them more. But most importantly, throughout the entire conference, I realized that I had to improve, not improve specifically, but I got to cast my voice and never fear my opinions. I got to once again cast my vote, I got to voice my opinion. I got to learn about government legislations and experience people debate their bills through model government legislation. I got to thank you.
Good evening. I'm McCaniel Zhao, and I'm a junior at Glendale Dawson High School. And I always thought that politics was something that was a touchy subject and something that I should never open my mouth about or never share my views. But about 2 years ago, my good friend Ayush Dave introduced me to the Youth and Government program. And I'm thankful that I got to experience the district and state conferences where I did raise my voice, not only to help myself, but to help my community. And I think that the Youth in Government program should be promoted in all public schools and all homeschool students because it really shows that you have the power to change in any issue that you want. And I'm thankful that our legislature was recognized tonight at the City Council meeting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Noel Seagroves. I am a junior at Glen Dawson High School this year. I've always loved political discussion. I've always enjoyed watching it behind the television screen, behind my phone, but I never had the chance to voice my opinion. I believe attending the Youth in Government conference really gave me an opportunity to voice my opinion. And it really taught me to have an open mind against opposing viewpoints. I always, as a phone, I get to select. Oh, I agree with this. I get to choose who I want to watch. But being at the Youth in Government conference, I'm encountered with opposing viewpoints to my own. And I learned to keep an open mind and approach politics in a new way. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Kevin Tong, and I'm a sophomore at Glenda Dawson High School. I joined the club in the fall of 2017, and throughout my experience with this club, I have learned that YNG motivated me to become a better public speaker. As I attend these conferences, I go up to in front of these people and talk about my ideas and my bills, and it's because of my experience with YNG, I have the courage to come up here and talk in front of y'all, and thank you.
My name is Brandon Hong. I'm a senior at Glenda Dawson High School. And before YG, I was such an introvert. I hated talking to people. I couldn't reach out to get any of the help I needed at school. And I had trouble even talking to my parents. After joining YG, I was able to reach out to many people, share my opinions, kind of spread my wings and get all the help that I've needed. And I learned that it's okay to talk about literally anything at YG, through Youth in Government, that I can talk about the most controversial issues. I even made a bill saying how much I am passionate about video game and esports and making competitive teams and how it could help people how it could help people like me socialize with people who enjoy the same interests. Thank you all for being here.
Good evening. My name is Wang Jung, and I'm a sophomore at Glen Dawson High School. And before joining YG, I wasn't very big in politics, and I was a very shy speaker. But after joining YG, I was allowed to share my ideas with people who would listen, and was able to become a better debater as I developed my argumenting skill and share my ideas with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all once again for your time this evening, and hopefully we can come attend another city council meeting, and hopefully we can have some productive dialogue about how Pearland can help more civically minded youth become active in their community. So once again, thank you so much.
As most of you can see, our country's going to be in good hands in the future. This is part of our future leadership for our nation. And I have a good feeling that things are going to be all right. If you notice, most of the young men came from Dawson High School, and they're all of them with an organization with YMCA. So I think it's a good fit. Dawson High School and YMCA is a good fit. So thank all of you, gentlemen. I appreciate all of you for being here. Would you all stand up so we can give you a group as a hand applause? Ladies and gentlemen. You are quite impressive. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I think that you could probably teach us a few things already. So thank you so much. Our city council meeting always starts at 6:30, and it happens to be 6:35 right now. So let me open our regular meeting. And I think with these fine young men here today, what a great way to open a meeting. What a great way to introduce leadership in our community and working with us as we build a city that's going to be very special, not only today, but more special as time goes on. So, great. Good. Okay. Let me open a regular meeting of the City Council, City of Pearland for Monday, April the 9th, year 2018. For us, we'll have an invocation night by Councilmember Reyes, and we'll have a member from our police department give a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, please bless us as we begin our deliberation. Help us to make sound, wise decisions. Bless our first responders, those who work, serve, bless all those who live in the city.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight as we move in our agenda to, and I have the same agenda that you have, if you picked up one. Item number 3 on our agenda is roll call, and we do have all of our council members here with bright and shiny faces. Moving into our item 4 on our collective agendas, which is citizen comments, and I'll ask Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Derek Reed to handle this and open this part of it.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We have 3 people that are wishing to speak, and thank you all for coming to share with us tonight. The first person is Ms. Renee Medlock. Welcome back, Ms. Medlock.
You could probably bend that down a little bit. Thank you.
State your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. That'd be.
Actually, my name is Renee Medlock. I've been here before, and actually, I would like to give my time to one of our colleagues that wishes to speak before the council, just in case she goes over. I want to make sure she gets her point across.
And I'm assuming that would be Miss Alicia Payer. Ms. Payer, if you could please state your name and address and limit your comments to around 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Alicia Pryor, and actually I had this on my list, and I'm going to be reading it, so if that's okay. My name is Alicia Pryor, and I live in the Lakes of Savannah community. And I'd like to ask everyone here that lives in the Lakes of Savannah community to please stand. And we all are here to show our concern for our community. We are here in support of the proposal being voted on to bring the fire station in the Lakes of Savannah community operational. I appreciate everyone that is here. It's been meeting after meeting. We've been here to discuss the proposal, and we're hoping that it is approved on. If I could just tell a story here today, if you'd be patient with me. Just recently, my family and I just suffered a tragedy that we never would imagine would have happened. On March the 7th, I was driving home from work, and during the commute, I was talking to one of my neighbors that live across the street from me. And all of a sudden, she says, "I'm talking to your mom now." And I began getting nervous because then she replied to them, "Have you called 911?" um, my heart began to race because she then replied, I asked her, what happened? What is it? What's going on? Are the kids okay? She tells me that my son says that there is a fire at the house. I'm trying to stay calm while sitting in traffic, feeling helpless. My neighbor and the kids rush across the street. My son tried putting out the fire with a fire extinguisher, but there was no pressure in it. And I just want to add that he suffered minor burns on his arm. And I want to say that if you have a fire extinguisher, please be sure that it's in working condition, because we were proactive in having a fire extinguisher there. They began looking for things to put out the fire, and at this point, my neighbors say to me, Alicia, we have to get out because it's too much smoke. I asked her, has she called 911? And she said that my daughter was on the phone talking to 911 dispatch at this time. She then assisted my daughter with the call, and I'm still not really understanding or visualizing how bad it was until she said, Alicia, it's pretty significant. I call my husband and I call my parents, and when I make it to the house, I remember saying to myself, is this really happening? When I got there, there was about 3 fire trucks in front of our home, and I go to my neighbors to check on the kids, still in disbelief. We've lived in the community for almost 6 years now, and we have witnessed one house burn down in flames. Normally, it takes 20 minutes plus for any emergency or medical vehicle to get to the community. It took 10 minutes for the emergency vehicle to arrive at our house, and our home still suffered significant damages throughout the entire house. We're actually displaced right now, so we'll be out of our house for 6 months to a year. The fire chief explained to us that 2 minutes later, we wouldn't have been so lucky. For whatever reason, God spared our home and my children. I'm thankful, but also sorrowful for those families who had to endure such a tragedy and lost everything. It is very disturbing to know that we have a fire station in the community that is basically useless but can be utilized to save lives and homes. Many of us have family members, parents, and children in the home that may be handicapped, disabled, or immobile. There is also the Savannah Lakes Elementary School and the daycare right next to the unmanned fire station. And just to think it would take 20 minutes for help to get there and save our children. How concerning. What will it take? Another tragedy where a life or lives are lost? We spend thousands of dollars to maintain this facility that can't help us. I don't know how many of you have experienced this type of calamity or disaster, but it is a frightening and helpless feeling. The approval of this proposal to bring this fire station functional can bring some security to us in the surrounding areas. Please see fit to vote for the proposal and make a difference. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story.
Thank you, Ms. Pryor. Is it Payo or Pryor? Pryor. The next person is Ms. Rosa Sade. Thank you for coming tonight. If you could, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be great.
Yes. 1 moment.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Rosa Saade. I live on 2016 Tydrock Lane on the Pearland, Texas 77584. Gentlemen, thank you so much for all your work. I was told that my approach was wrong, and I would like to apologize to you. But I do have some concerns that I would really appreciate if you could address them. I currently presented, when I gave the statement that I wanted to speak to tonight, I presented also an open request because I would like to see where our waste goes. Mr. Perez, I was looking on the internet and I saw a post that you put last June 2017. I also presented a printout of this, where you were stating that, and I quote, "We had been under the impression that no Pearland trash went to BRL based on previous information provided." And later you said, "I've personally met with waste management representatives to gauge the amount of Pearland trash that may go to BRL from the information our trash collector, waste management provided. There does not appear to be very much of our trash that goes to BRL. We're currently negotiating with waste management to ensure no Pearland trash goes to BRL. I would like to know now in 2018, what's the exact data regarding this? Also, I would like to point out something. There's going to be a hearing next week, April 24th. I understand that you cannot say anything about it, but I was wondering if Mr. Derek Reed, since you are a resident in Shadow Creek Ranch, I was wondering if you were considering to attend the hearing to testify as a resident. Also, I have heard from Commissioner Morales and from Chris Hill from 180 Messaging that the City of Pearland will be settling soon. And I think one of the previous meetings, few councilmen that I spoke to told me the same. But one thing I've noticed, those three sources that I spoke to, the three of you told me that not to really expect that the other will go away for sure. And I would like to say that I hope that with the lawsuit that you have, you will be able to make sure that no one suffers anymore from any other reasons. I'll briefly remind you that the smell goes inside our homes, in our bedrooms, our bathrooms. It wakes us up at night, gives us headache, nausea. It's really horrible. And also, I wanted to ask you if there's a way for you to apply some pressure on TCEQ in order to have them enforce BRL to do what they have to do, so that they apply the notice of enforcement that was already issued last year. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. And unfortunately, we can't respond to the comments, but hope if you stick around, maybe some of us can speak with you after the meeting.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it for the people that have asked to speak for tonight, and go ahead and pass it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, number 5 on our agenda is public hearings. There are none tonight. Moving to item number 6, consent agenda. I'll ask Councilmember Carbone to present the consent agenda, and there's been a request to pull item number D.
Item D.
Item D is in dog.
All right. I'd also like to pull item B as in boy. Consideration and possible action, consent agenda items A through F, excluding B and D. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any question or comment from council? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Say D and E.
Step away from the chambers. Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with Councilmember Ordino absent from the chambers.
Moving to item B.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution R 2018-64. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Question or comment from council? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have a motion second for.
Mayor, I pulled this. I'd ask staff if they give us a quick overview of this project, and then I guess to follow up, when I'm looking in the agenda, it shows expenditures over funding sources by about 2.6 million. So before we spend over 100,000 on design services, I'd like to get a handle on how we're going to fund the construction going forward.
Did you have the comment from council?
Mayor, I'd like to give staff the opportunity to respond.
Okay.
That's right. So this project is one of our capital improvements, and it involves the upgrades and redesign and modernization of several of our significant facilities on Old Alvin and East Orange. We have all of our public works operations on that site. It's a former fire station that's being moved to the north is also included there. But everything involved with our field operations, storage of materials, fleet operations, and also our park services are operations that are in the field there for right-of-way maintenance and park maintenance are out of that facility. So there's a lot going on there. The property is developed with a series of buildings and renovations and additions and as a need basis, and it's become sort of a hodgepodge. So we've had the intention of standardizing the site and trying to make a little bit more order out of that. We've gone into this with the intentions of, with the design contract with Huitt-Zoll to renovate one of those buildings, and that was a former EMS building. But as we got into that and stripped away some of the sheeting and so forth, I've come to find out that the building really has some major structural issues. There's a steel beam that is a support piece that has somewhere over the last decades has had some chunks cut out of it. It came to the conclusion and shared in the Thursday packet a few weeks ago that it's our strong recommendation that we not try to renovate that we instead demolish that existing building and then start fresh with a new purpose-built building. I think in a lot of ways it's going to be a blessing in disguise in terms of that what we'll get at the end, as we again shared in some of the background material, Public Works is obviously one of our front and center line operations and providing services to the public. And particularly during Harvey, we were really pressed and stressed there for what that whole complex isn't. And so we want to provide better facilities for our staff and more efficient that they can work out of day to day, but also in emergencies have some bunk spaces and food services, et cetera, when they're going to be stuck there for extended periods of time, better communications, better situation rooms. So all that's a part of a future plan. And so with this contract that's before you tonight, we'd be able to take a little bit more of a fresh look and design that with Huitt-Zollers. As was noted, that does come with a price tag, and the existing budget in the CIP has a budget amount, and our anticipation is that that's going to, if we're going to do this right, and we're going to do it at this opportunity, we're going to need more money to the budget on this. The original presentation and anticipation was for certificates of obligation to fund that. This is a long-term capital project that's going to be with the city for decades, and the intention would be to come back to you once we have the design, know the pricing, that we'd increase that amount to be able to handle that in the future for the construction phase.
Okay.
What does timing look like in terms of the next bond referendum, and would this?
So two things. I mean, as I mentioned, we have what we already, I think we probably did a intent to reimburse. I'm not 100% sure of that on the certificates of obligation. So we could increase that whenever the time was necessary. We are going to have a separate meeting at the end of April on a future bond issue, but that would come in May for authorization to the voters if everything played through in May of 19 for a general obligation bond issue, not a certificate of obligation issue.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, in that facility out there have been some of the buildings that were built back in the 1971, 72 late 60s timeframe. So water's apparently has gotten into the basin and has messed it up pretty well. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and replace it for my safety. It was several years ago. It was the police chief then, the fire chief at that time had suggested that it be condemned and repaired, and there was a little bit of repair work done on it, but it just wasn't sufficient enough. Any other questions from council?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. First off, I want to thank staff for giving us a tour of that facility a week or so ago, and also the Linwood Orange improvements that are going on in that area. And you know, when you walk through everything from our animal control building all the way down that facility, it's one of our older facilities. Workable would be a stretch, to be honest. When you look at the office space and the conditions we're asking staff to work out of in there, as we've grown as a city, I think staff's done a good job of attempting to utilize that space to its fullest. But it's time to give them what they need. Allow them to store materials inside that need to be stored inside that are currently stored outside. There's so many things that you just can't put a dollar figure on that are happening out there right now. And I fully support giving Public Works, the Animal Control Center, the other people that operate out there what they need to do the job. And I know animal control is not part of this one, but that facility was heartbreaking in many ways, and that's coming from the son of an ag teacher that really didn't have pets. We had projects, so it's needed.
Any further comment from council?
Yes, Mayor. So right now in the scoping, are we looking at just demoing most of or all of the buildings and kind of starting from a fresh site?
Councilman Perez, that'll be part of when we take a look at revisit on the master plan. But then, yes, we would take a look at using this opportunity to reprogram and take away the buildings that are of not necessary and create the facility that needs to be there, as City Manager Pearson stated.
My understanding, most of those buildings are about the same age and likely the same condition as the one that we actually had a chance to be able to take a look at the structure. It wouldn't be surprising if the remaining buildings had the same structural problems.
It could lead itself to that. That is correct. These buildings are of similar age, and we look forward to moving forward in the right direction.
All right, thank you.
Any further comment from council?
I do, Mayor. Going along with what Keith said on there, when we went out there, it was in pretty bad shape. When you look at it in load-bearing structures, there was just rusted away, and a lot of you ceiling joists was away. What we're looking at, and going back to what Ordino said over there, that we've appropriated so much, $5.8 million. Is that correct? So far. And we're at an expenditure total future, it says down here, 6.1.
Correct. That sounds correct. That is correct per the agenda memo.
So this doesn't have anything in for the reconstruction cost. Do we have any kind of an estimate on that? Once we go through and do this and take this down and come back and start reconstructing it.
We're working right now in terms of that with regards to the first facility, which is the administration portion, and the hardened facilities that we're looking for emergency response. And then from that standpoint, as we go through and taking a look overall at the site plan, what budgetary needs are down the road for the future portions of those facilities. That'll happen in time.
So is that something we're going to be able to see on the 30th of this month or not? On the estimate?
Councilmember, a couple things on the budget that we're showing in here is that we do have an estimate in there for this first building, the administration building. And then down there at the bottom where we are showing the balance or what looks like the additional funds needed, there will be approximately $1 million coming back when we close out the current contract because we could not renovate that building
that'll come back into this project fund. And then one other thing I'd point out is that well over half of the funding is coming out of the water and sewer revenue funds, because it does support the water and sewer portion, the enterprise portion of the public works operations. And so those funds are coming from there, and that's why we chose to move forward with the other portion of the funds coming from certificates of obligation.
Okay, but we still don't have any kind of a cost estimate on what it come in, reconstruct the area over there.
We've got a cost estimate on the administration building of approximately, including inspection and testing, looks like about $5.6 million. We're estimating that right now on about $300 a square feet based on our most recent cost estimates. And that's another driver in the cost increase we're seeing here is when we first started developing this project, we were at about $225 a square foot, but based on the most recent bids on other building projects that we've taken in, we recommend moving that estimate up to about $300 a square feet by the time we bid this project.
After going over there and y'all gave us a good tour of the place over there, and definitely it needs it. I just would like to see at some point in time in the near future, this is where we're at right now, but in order to come back and reconstruct all that area, what's an estimated cost that we're going to have? I was just wondering if we're going to be able to look at that to put it in a bond issue, or if we're going to go back with COs and GOs to be, to pay for that.
Sure, and if we're talking about phase two beyond this one, where we come back and we redo the operations building, the fleet facility, and all those things, we are working on some cost estimates for that. We do have it on the list of projects that will be brought on the 30th to take a look at. So that will be more of the full, complete site, and it would be part of phase two and possibly a third phase.
I was just saying that's pretty well where council member was coming from down there on the cost of what the initial cost for it.
Any other council comments at this point? Mr. Secretary, I think we do not at this point have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Mr. Carbone, item number D, I believe is next.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, Resolution R 2018-65. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Council have any question or comment at this point? And the council, when the staff gives us a little update on that.
Sure. So this is a project that we're looking forward to bringing into the community. We had something identified in Wood Creek Park to replace and upgrade the playground equipment in that public park there. We're fortunate in that we had some city land over on Broadway nearby that was sold, and so we're taking that money and using that for the playground. And so this is the first part of that with the replacement. When we went out and we went off the buy board, the vendor proposed and gave us an offer for actually getting essentially a 2-for-1, whereby they wanted to, they had some equipment, and so we're able to actually get 2 sites upgraded with playgrounds, both Wood Creek and Hyde Park with this. And then we intend to also come back with some additional improvements at Wood Creek beyond the playground. So that it's actually kind of a win-win. We're getting 2 playgrounds replaced, and we're also going to be making some additional improvements into Wood Creek. But if there's any detailed questions about what those are, I'd be happy to try to address those.
Good. Council, any question or comment on that?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Were any plans for any increased lighting for the Wood Creek Park?
Widening? I'm sorry?
Lighting.
Lighting, I'm sorry. Chris? Widen so many roads, I got...
No widening, lighting.
Good evening, Councilman. As you might recall, a couple years ago, we had talked with the residents of Wood Creek to find out kind of what best met the needs of that community. Most of the lighting that was in between the former Fire Station 3 and the park, those fell into and belonged to the CenterPoint Energy Company. and the lighting that has been installed there is up to their standards, and we've had all of the lights that were out at that time restored by working with them. And at that point, through a memo we brought back to you guys, the conversations with the homeowners, or forgive me, the neighborhood association, appeared to be to the residents' satisfaction.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You have a question or comment for council?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Can you explain how we're buying off a buy board and they're just happy to throw in a whole nother set of equipment? That just doesn't smell right.
Yes, sir. The company Grounds for Play is they're headquartered here in Texas in Mansfield. It's a really they've been around a long time. They started in 1983, and what has gotten them most of the business is working with municipalities and school districts. And because of that, get the name that they use for it. They have a large grant and stimulus pool. It's a group of about 75 donor organizations that provide a large pooled amount of money that provide resources ranging from anything from Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation to specific special needs organizations for the blind that provide this pooled cash to assist communities that may not have the funds necessary to get where they're looking. So they ask for a comprehensive approach. When we met with the consultant, they asked for the total needs within the community outside of what we were dealing with, specifically at Wood Creek. We had one other neighborhood park, and that was Hyde Park. So what the organization was able to do is when we entered into the agreement with them, they were able to source and pool their grant funds that we were qualified for and essentially pay for the other playground, providing it to the City of Pearland at no cost through grant funding.
Any other question or comment?
That sounds good. I don't know. Is the vendor here?
No, sir, they're not.
Okay. I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but I mean, this is a buy board. I don't know. I mean, I would be skeptical if I called up a vendor and they said, "Hey, let me give you twice as much because I've got some free grant money on the side."
Right. If I could give just some examples of maybe some of the groups that work with them. I realize there's no such thing as free lunch, but there are things as tax write-offs. So a couple of the organizations that have participated with this particular grant program that we were eligible for were the Henry E. Niles Foundation, Wells Fargo, the RGK, and the Coca-Cola Foundation. Each of those provide a minimum of about $100,000 a year just to this region for playgrounds. So we were able to qualify within those areas, and to be in compliance with the buy board, there was only one buy board discount given. So essentially those donors that paid into it, I guess, didn't get a buy board discount for their donations that they applied on. We rarely come across things like this, and it definitely was something we wanted to look into to make sure it wasn't anything suspect. And indeed, sir, after everything that we looked at, it appears that we do just get an additional play program available kind of at the kindness of the donors.
Okay.
Can we get any more then?
I will try my best, sir.
All right. Has our resident grant expert, Mr. Hardy, familiar with this? Is he cool with it?
I did not get any kickback rather from Mr. Hardy. There's a couple different grant avenues that I think we can pursue from. I'm not sure getting my foot in the door is the right word for it, but some of these grants are successive grants that once you participate in the program, you're eligible to continue to participate.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question or comment from council?
Yes, Mayor. First off, I like free, so thank you. I think any opportunity to get that stuff for free, I don't like to look a gift horse in the mouth, so I'll just let them walk by. With respect to Wood Creek,
Yes,
I know there's been an ongoing concern for the people who live out there, and I know there was some logistics about the funding mechanism, the sale of the land in order to be able to buy this equipment and do the remainder of the project. If we could go over briefly, what's the remaining scope after we purchase the equipment, the value of the investment into Wood Creek, and the timing of when we expect that project to be complete?
Yes, sir. To start with the timing, the purchase that I needed to bring before this body to ask for your permission to purchase was obviously the largest, this playground, and it'll be the focal piece with everything built around it. So pending the approval of you and your colleagues, sir, that would be the kickoff of this project. The site is prepped. We've worked with the drainage district to outline the ultimate bank of Mary's Creek to make sure that nothing we do will impede with the ultimate easements as they expand that throughout our community. The total anticipated initial buy-in for this project is roughly $225,000. It has been the direction of administration to seek out comment from the rest of the community to find out how else to further work within that park. But the $225,000 would include those additional components that we met with the Wood Creek Neighborhood Association to include, and that was an upgrade and an enhancement to the signage, a 0.75 mile trail that's going to be concrete curbs and DG, a landscape enhancement to include a shrub wall, and also benches and tables throughout the site for passive recreation. There was one component that was initially discussed, and that was a shade structure. And in meeting with the vendor, the shoe was on the other foot, and they wouldn't sell us one because they couldn't find one that could provide more shades than the tree that was on the property. So I think this was a good balance between what we could provide within our funding and make good use of for the residents.
So I think I recall a value of about somewhere north of $600,000 being bandied around at some point as far as the total investment into this park. So we're going to be less than that.
The value, are you referring to the CIP value in the 2016, the books? That number's been tossed around a bit. At one point, it was the interpretation of former engineers that there was an additional need for mitigation at that site based on the enhancement we were making. We've since then had that evaluated, and the work that we're providing on that site doesn't require mitigation beyond and above what we already have in the Upper Marys Creek retention body.
So briefly, we're going to provide them everything that they've asked for. We're saving money because we don't need to do floodplain mitigation on the site.
Yes, sir. In short, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good. Any other question or comment from council? I think a number of cities use the buy board along with Houston Galveston Area Council and several other the organizations, and look like we got a good two for one here on this particular buy. So I think it was a plus when we did that. So, with that information in the record, Mr. Secretary, we do have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay. I was going to mention all the individuals standing. We do have a number of chairs. If you'd like to sit down, we'd invite you to sit down, and it's maybe a long council meeting, so you're certainly welcome to join us. Moving in our agenda to item number 8, which is new business. New business item number 1, Councilmember Moore, would you present this for our consideration?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, first reading of ordinance number 1558. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thanks, sir. As council is well aware, we're deep into major improvements for our water system with a surface water treatment plant and associated improvements. The funding of that, we've been working with the Texas Water Development Board. That does require issuance of revenue bonds, and so this is the first reading for that step to move that project along with the bond financing. We're at a point where we need to issue bonds to have those monies into our system so we can continue to pay for things.
Any question or comment from council? Hearing none, we do have motion second on the floor, Mr. Secretary.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Moving to new business item 2, Councilmember Reed, would you do the honor?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration of possible action, resolution number R 2018-69. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thanks, sir. We have been looking at, obviously, our stormwater improvements, and one of the things that we discussed with council and asked for concurrence to move forward on is acquisition of some properties that are either repetitive losses or where we have a drainage project that we'd like to assemble lands for. Council agreed with that and gave us a green light for $500,000 worth of acquisitions as they become available. And this is the reimbursement agreement so that we can formalize. We already have a bond proceeds from 2007 authorized, but we haven't issued those yet. So this would be the reimbursement so that when we do issue those, that we can come back and pay ourselves back for that. We did set this up so that we could go beyond that if council chooses to, so we wouldn't have to repeat this. But the only monies that council's authorized is that first $500,000. We would come back to you if there was a need or wanted to come back, exceed that first $500K.
Council, have any question or comment on this item? Sound like a good deal on our part. We have a motion. Hearing none, we have a motion second on the floor, Mr. Secretary.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Moving to new business item number 3, Councilmember Ordino, would you do the honor?
Consideration and possible action, first reading of ordinance number 2000M-167. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thanks, sir. This is a rezoning property off of Riley Road, Alameda. They council saw us at JPH. I believe Community Development's got a brief presentation overview just for yourselves in the audience, just to know what we're doing here.
Council, have any question or comment on this item?
We do have a brief presentation, Mayor, if that's all right. So.
Oh, okay.
Very brief presentation. All right, so if you remember, this is for the Biggie Crane group. They are assembling some tracts of land. The current zoning of the property is S5, which is in the Spectrum District. They're moving it to the M1 light industry zoning classification. We've got a breakdown of the public comments that we had from the March meeting, and it passed P&Z's vote with a vote of 5-0.
And I believe,
here's a map for you.
Apologize.
Okay. That's good.
Did you want to mention the ordinance number 2?
There is one slight amendment that needs to be made. 2000M-167 is already taken. It needs to be moved to 2000M-169, please.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that change.
An amended motion on Council. And then, okay. Is there a second for that amendment?
Yes.
We do have a second, okay. Council having a discussion on that item, amendment item? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, we have a motion second on the floor for an amended motion.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Amendment carried 7-0.
We now have an amended motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that item as percent? Okay.
That was the amendment.
Yeah. Council have any discussion on the amendment yet? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have an amended motion on the floor.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens? Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Ordinance 2000M-169 was approved 7-0.
Moving in our agenda to item number 4, new business item 4, Councilmember Little, you do the honor. Consideration and possible action, first reading of ordinance number 2000M-168. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Again, this is a text amendment you saw at JPH, but I'll ask our colleagues in community development to give an overview of what this involves.
All right, so this is an addendum to add land that's currently zoned R2, a portion of which is also within the planned development already. This is for effectively Phase 3 of the Center at Pearland Parkway. Again, we have the public comments down below, and this passed by a vote of 5-0. This does include the amended site plan showing the entrance treatment, and it is within the PD document for your approval.
That completes your report.
Yes, sir.
Council, any question or comment, Rose? Carbone?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. I know it was in the agenda write-up, but just to clarify for any residents and a lot of them that were here last time, what is the treatment of that intersection?
Traffic signal.
Okay. So a traffic signal will be built there?
Yes, as as put forth by the developer and also through their traffic impact analysis and agreements, is that a traffic signal is warranted there. And per the TIA, it is warranted. So then we will follow up if the developer is required to put one in.
All right, thank you.
I guess I have the same comments I had last time on, did we look at other options? What is this going to look like as the rest of this builds out? There is another curb cut. If we keep going up Pearland Parkway, are we looking at another light there? I just really don't want to see this become what 518 has in the 35 area, especially where every time I drive 1,000, 2,000 feet, I'm hitting a red light. If there's other options.
Councilman Ordino, we actually looked at that as the site as an entirety when we looked at the TIA. That's what we need to take a look at holistically. With that, this would be the last light that's in this stretch before you hit Berry Roads. And we have it in the TIA with the developer, therefore stating that the only other entrance that would be proposed would be a right in, right out, located a little further up Pearland Parkway on their property.
So what happens to, in this graphic, that top crossover?
Which crossover? The one that's currently right now?
The one that's currently...
That would be a full traffic signal.
So we are going to add another traffic signal.
I'm sorry. Oh, at the top of the map? No.
Yeah, the top.
No, that is the next driveway was anticipated to be aligned up. If you take a look on the property lines, the one just, I'll say, south of the page on that opening,
right.
That's about right where the mouse is, a little bit further down there is where the right in, right out would be.
All right, so can we close that other curb cut?
We're looking at that within regards to the rest of the concept as we look through Pearland Parkway as a whole, and then as we go into the traffic circle further north.
Okay, and I guess...
I apologize, Councilman Ordino. Additionally, we're taking a look north of Berry Rose, where the gas station and a major boulevard cross-section is right there. That would be the only other signalized intersection that we are looking at to be installed right there. And then that would complete what we believe is our corridor for traffic signals. And then we'll take a look at crossovers holistically after that.
Okay, I'm trying to pull up a bigger map real quick, but I guess when I think about it, and I know it doesn't make that neighborhood happy, and if the neighborhood's the reason we're getting the traffic signal there, it just seems like we're kind of crunching traffic signals into small areas when you look at Pearland Parkway as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yes, Councilmember, it does, but the amount of traffic that's coming out through that area drives that signal, along with the wait times and the turning movements in the left turn in both directions. That's what's driving the signal there.
Okay, thank you.
Not every development has to have its own direct access to Pearland Parkway. They could have, some of them have to have maybe a half a block to an existing access. So maybe that's true here.
I have a question, Mayor. So, Mr. Upton, you're talking about closing that top opening from going northbound where you could cut across and go southbound? If you could put a mouse up there. You're talking about closing that down to where you could not make that U-turn around?
That is one of the options. That is correct.
I think it's a terrible idea. These people that live in this neighborhood, they're going to have to drive all the way up, or go all the way to the Shell station to be able to turn around and come back southbound.
I don't quite follow.
If you close that off to where you can't make a U-turn, say I was going northbound on Pearland Parkway, and I want to go southbound, I'm coming out of that neighborhood, I'm not going to be able to U-turn there and come back south?
You just turn left.
Just turn left out of the intersection because you'll have a full signalized intersection at Hidden Creek area.
Okay.
That'll be full intersection.
But
You can make a
still,
left turn.
I can't go, I won't be able to turn around there. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is we have to drive 1.5 miles before you can turn around because we got all these esplanades and you can't turn back around. If you miss a turn, you're going to drive 1 mile out of your way before you turn around. It's ridiculous.
The reason that would be closed is that would be a proposed another full intersection with a traffic signal for the development. Actually, no, it was a right in, right out north of there. And so we would have to look at the distance of that full opening from where that future driveway would be and either close or possibly move where that is to make sure that it's the proper distance from that future.
And what drives that right in, right out? Why can't they use just that one entrance in and out there at the light?
Mm-hmm. This is coming also with regards to their potential future development plan, and they have proposed where they would like to have the road. And so the TIA is set up based off that proposal.
Okay. Councilmember Perez?
I'm sorry. Just to make sure, the lighted intersection is going to be the double lane coming out of the neighborhood right in front of the property.
I apologize, Councilman.
That's okay. I just want to make sure I understand where the light's going to be. It's going to be right there where the 2 lanes come out of, I guess, Hidden Creek Drive.
Right
in front of where the Hobby Lobby is located.
Councilman, a little correct. It's what's called Shallow Creek Drive, and the intersection of Pearland Parkway. There will be a full intersection there, so there will be a left turn, right turn.
I think it's a good idea putting it there. I think it addresses the 2 concerns that most of the citizens had at the last meeting that live in that neighborhood, the concerns of safety and noise. So I think it's a good idea.
Councilmember Perez?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry. I just want to kind of broad scope this with respect to the potential for the super street for Pearland Parkway. If we were to adopt this super street as it was originally modeled, would these signals remain in place?
If you modeled a true super street concept as was potentially talked about several years ago, then you wouldn't have any traffic signals. These are being installed as a result of development and a change in philosophy of that time.
Fair enough. So I think we need to move forward with the signal. I appreciate all the work the developer and staff has put into this. I don't interfere with that, but I think just for the benefit of the conversation as we go forward with the bond referendum, if we decide as a council to move forward with the super street, we're remodeling all of these intersections with some other traffic management system through there potentially. Or we're gonna come up with a compromise where it's not quite a super street. We have these signalized intersections here.
Councilman Perez, in the realm as we're moving forward with this type of construction, your super street concept would potentially go away. We would look at modifying or taking a look at intersections and crossovers in the corridor, but the true philosophical discussion of a super street concept would be closed.
So more than likely what we'd be presented would be a hybrid that includes the infrastructure that's already, or more than likely what we would want to move forward with is a hybrid that already includes the infrastructure that's been installed.
That is correct. We'd be using those controls there.
And the other signal that you mentioned north, would that be at Forest Park? where the two, where the two gas service stations are outside of Lakeside and Glen?
Correct. That was at Summit Springs, Forest Park, that
And
intersection.
the model shows that being done after the traffic circle is replaced.
We would look in conjunction together.
So the traffic circle plus that intersection. Okay. Thank you.
Correct, sir.
Councilmember Owens?
Yeah. So what we're looking at, and I agree with the signal there, but as long as the developer pays for it, I don't think that's $300,000 to $400,000 that we ought to pay from the city, so I wouldn't be in favor of doing that. But that'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4 signals by the time you get to Berry Rose, and then possibility of looking one more signal down where the commercial is on the service station, one there. Is that what you said? So that'll give us 5 before you get to the roundabout?
Correct, Councilman Owen. You'd be looking at 1, 2, 4, 5 before you hit the roundabout. And then you'd have whatever signals are in beyond that are existing.
Okay, so the other part is that on this development going through there, they'll have that common road going through back on the right of way, as they do from HEB all the way down to.
There would always be shared access as required by our UDC.
Yeah. Okay. So given our other discussions now, we're not going to be paying for that signal to go in there at this location, right?
That is correct. It is driven by the developer. The developer is required.
Right. Okay. Now, do we have to change anything on the stacking of traffic through there or what?
Any stacking is necessary in terms of the left turn movements. Those will be all compensated as required by the TIA. So there's enough stacking in there along with the tapers going into those intersections, plus then looking at signal timing.
Okay. All right.
Is there questions from council at this point? Remember, you completed your comments? I think we've completed our comments on that. Mr. Secretary, we have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens? Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Moving in our agenda to item number 5, Councilmember Perez, would you do the honor?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, first reading ordinance number 2000T-27. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
So this is the text amendment for the zoning ordinance that has several topics, and again, community development can bring this home for us.
Council have any question or comment on this item?
We've still got it.
Oh, you still talking down there, huh?
We good. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. If you can recall, this was first presented before you in December 2017. At that time, council decided to postpone action, so staff is bringing it back before you tonight. There's 4 components to this proposed text amendment. The first one deals with the revisions to the land use matrix in relations to liquor and package stores. Staff is proposing to allow liquor and package stores only by a CUP in the following zoning districts: the BP 288, GB, and GC districts, as well as PD districts with the underlying base zoning of commercial. Staff is also proposing to remove the criteria associated with microbreweries, distilleries, and wineries to an additional section of the UDC. So staff, this is a continuation of the previously statement. Staff is proposing to move it to additional section of the UDC. This section is specific to the use criteria associated with microbreweries. Staff has had a series of maps associated with the liquor and package stores. The first map deals with packaged liquor stores only, so the red dots are associated with TABC permitted packaged liquor stores. The second map is associated with retail outlets associated with beer and wine. So, for instance, your grocery stores, your convenience stores that are permitted to sell beer and wine off premises. The third map shows restaurants that are permitted to sell alcohol sales throughout Pearland. And the fourth map shows everything. So your restaurants, your beer and wine sales, as well as your packaged liquor stores.
So originally, when this amendment came to you in December, there were some recommendations with regard to regulating packaged liquor stores in Pearland. What we're trying to show through these maps, and the fact that we have not received any additional liquor package store applications since that time, is that right now, there were some concerns expressed. We didn't feel that there was a consensus from council on moving forward. And we feel it's our job to bring forward regulations that address specific needs that can be effective and enforceable. And right now, we don't feel that we have those for you. So we have removed from the proposal the recommendations that were originally brought forward from planning and zoning. They are included in your packet if you wish to include them as part of an amendment. But moving forward, we think that the rules in place right now are working for the city of Pearland.
The third component of the amendment deals with the landscape buffer. Currently, the UDC requires a 25-foot landscape buffer between non-residential uses or districts and that are adjacent to residential uses or districts, even if those uses or adjacent uses are next to drainage. So staff is proposing to revise the UDC to not allow this, not require this 25-foot landscape buffer only in the instance where it's adjacent to a drainage. And the last amendment deals with adding an addition to the UDC for tree credit, the tree mitigation fee credit. So at the time, I know during the December meeting, council had some concerns in regards to street credits. And this time, staff is not proposing to change any of the text. The new law does not require any addition or doesn't permit any additional tree credit additions other than what's being proposed. So at this time, staff is proposing to submit the language that was priorly submitted before council. And this concludes staff's report at this time.
Okay. Right, wonderful. Council, have any question or comment on that? Perez.
Yeah, the liquor store. That's I don't think, I was hoping for wider spacing on these other than 2,500. If you look at it on your map that you've shown, there's a cluster right here in the east side of Pearland over here. And I think, they're just right in front of a subdivision. They're right across the street from each other. And it's kind of like one of the people that put in the last one over there said it was like a gold rush on the east side of Pearland, coming to put the liquor stores in. And I just think, actually they're too close. They're clustered, within a certain area here. And I think, that they should be spread out a lot more than where they at if they're going to have them. I mean, if you take it out further and look at it from 518 here all the way to 35, you got about 9 liquor stores there in that area. And then some that's right outside the city that claim to be Pearland liquor all through there. Then you look at right next to us now on 518 going into Friendswood. When you get, a couple of hundred yards into Friendswood, you got 2 liquor stores right there. So, I mean, it seems like everything's coming in. I know a couple have come across over there since the beginning over there off of 288 area, but it seems like the cluster of all of these are coming on the east side. I just think, the 2,500 feet is not the way it should be. I would hope it stretched out a little bit further than that, through that, or either that for a number within a certain period, or a certain area within the city. But it seems like, everything is clustered on 518 and right through it in where the Kroger Shopping Center is and Berry Rose. That's where you have 3 of them right there now. So, now, I don't think, as far as the liquor stores, I don't think you're going to make me happy about it altogether. So, to do that, but I think, they need to really be spaced out more than they are.
Well, I think what we were looking at, sir, is the availability of alcohol as a whole in the city of Pearland. So today, you can open a grocery store without a permit to sell beer and wine across from a grocery store, across from another grocery store that sells beer and wine, next to a convenience store that sells beer and wine, next to a Chili's that you can get shots. And so the idea is, when Pearland opened up to packaged liquor stores, we had a bit of a rush because the market was empty and it was adjusting based on a fill. And what we're seeing right now is that the market seems to have stabilized, and that we're not seeing the rush and requests for these permits anymore. There's still CUPs. They still have to go through a council review process. But ultimately, the vast majority of alcohol that is bought and consumed in Pearland is done so without any sort of city review.
Yeah, like I said, you won't make me happy about it either way you're going to go. But I just think they're too close. I mean, you got one at HEB that opened up there, and then you got one right at Berry Rose, and there, and right across the street behind the Starbucks from there. I mean, you can get drunk in one, stumble across the street, and go to another. But I mean, yeah, it's just no, it is. To me, it just seems like it's too close. So it's just a cluster of them,
And we have no problem bringing forth the recommendation. Our concern was that we talked about some numbers, and numbers were thrown out, but there didn't seem to be consistency on what that number should be. And if a council would like to give us some direction, we would be glad to come back with an amendment to include that.
Yeah. I'll give the other side to that. And I mean, the great thing about packaged and liquor stores is it's off premise, so they can't get drunk at one and stumble to the other because that's not allowed. Now, the 62 wine, beer, mixed drink on-premise restaurants that everybody loves to see come in, if you look at this map, I see several areas where they're clustered. If I look at wine and beer on and off premise at 24, we're sitting here for some reason arguing over 7 liquor stores. If we're truly worried about drinking and driving, if we're worried about all those things, I think we have other problems that people never commented about. Now, why some people have decided liquor stores are the devil and they're going to turn us into this terrible place, I still don't get, and I won't. So I think that's when staff says they couldn't get direction from council. We have 2 very different views, and that's what makes the world fun and a great place to be. So
I'm glad you see it to be fun. But no, the only thing, where we got them at now, I guess the one down here on Berry Rose right there at 518 Peach, you go by there and there's no cars there whatsoever. I mean, I don't know, I guess people are going on down to Pearland Parkway and getting it down there at Specs at a cheaper price, I would imagine. But the thing about it, I mean, you got that, and you got one right across the street. You got one, or 2. One goes into right around by the neighborhood. But I understand, you can stop at a service station or a convenience store or whatever and get all the beer and wine you want, or a grocery store on that. But it's a difference between the wine and the beer and hard liquor. So, I mean, that to me, that's the difference. And
I've drank them both, and they both have the same effect.
Yeah, I credit all this back to Costco for them paying to get people out there to sign up for the liquor stores here, so they could have a separate liquor store beside their regular store on Costco, and that's why I don't go there. But anyway, I just I wish it was out further. I don't think it's going to be pushed out to 5,000 feet in between them. Not, and I'm sure that from 35 over to Pearland Parkway, there's going to be more that try to go in there within that condensed area through there. So, but I just think it's, you can oversaturate the market, I think, and putting them through there. So that's what I think about it.
At least most of them are not in the residential district. I mean, the majority of them, I mean.
So you're.
Perez?
Thank you, Mayor. With respect to the liquor stores, I think honestly, looking at the map, they're just not all going to survive. And I think the market will make a determination. The idea is that how do we balance what the citizens asked us for, which was when they voted to allow off-premise liquor store sales through a referendum that they petitioned for and then voted positively for. How do we balance that with those who were against it? And I think what staff's proposed, honestly, is fair. We forcibly spaced them out to where they're at least a half a mile apart, and they still require council to approve it. We can still say no, and we can apply whatever standard we want as individual council members to why we say no. Honestly, looking at all these dots all over the place, I just don't think all of them will survive. I think two of these, a couple of these that are right across the street from each other, one will go out of business, and then we will have the opportunity to say, do we want to allow somebody else to go in there and operate a liquor store? And at that point, we can say, look, we want them separated, and we don't want to drive through, so we can make the change then. I don't want us to be working as if we know the market and we can control the market. Citizens asked for it. We're just trying to provide some semblance of control without being picking winners and losers, where we say the first one in, you get the liquor store, no one else gets to come in. I appreciate your concern. Look, I like to throw down a beer every now and then. I'm not much of a liquor drinker, but people in Pearland like to have a couple of beers, a couple of drinks every now and then. I mean, what's the point of making them go out to City of Houston to drop their tax dollars? We'll let the market decide who wins and loses. Again, just commending staff on their work on this. I really appreciate the language that y'all put together for the buffer zones against residential or non-residential uses up against residential areas, but where we have detention facilities or mitigation facilities or regional detention facilities where the buffer is essentially de facto there already. I think that's a good move, and I think we bump into that more and more as some of the infill is coming in place. My concern, and I know this is what I brought up originally with respect to the tree ordinance, and I have my opinions. I'd like to see if other council members are on board with me, but my general belief is this: if we have a piece of land and we develop it, and the tree canopy that it develops after the project is done exceeds the canopy that was there before, I don't really believe that it is fair to say we need additional canopy. Right now, the way the ordinance is written is we have our landscaping requirements. If it's a residential development, we have additional requirements that say there has to be so many trees per lot, along with perimeter trees to the development. If it's a commercial development, street trees. If there are existing trees in there, on top of that, those tree requirements are mitigation requirements. So I personally believe that we should have credit towards the mitigation for the trees that are required by ordinance. So long as those trees are trees that are on our protected tree list. If they want to line the street with crepe myrtles and we allow that, then those aren't on the protected tree list. They don't get credit for the mitigation. But if they do it with live oaks, 2 or 4 inch live oaks, I personally believe that we should go ahead and grant that credit for the tree mitigation, as opposed to being, for lack of a better term, excessively punitive to those who happen to develop some place where there was a bit of a forest and had a few large diameter trees. If there is another council member who's willing or has the same concern and wants to discuss that, I'd love to have an amendment to this, or postpone that portion of it via an amendment to have it come back with language that grants that credit. The idea would be, we have a landscape requirement that says, regardless of the development regardless of the conditions of the amount of trees that you have on the site, you already have to put in so many trees. If there are existing trees on the site, in addition to that, you have to mitigate for the trees that are on site. What I would say is, if the canopy that is required per the landscaping requirements exceeds what would be required in the mitigation, then we give them the credit. But if it doesn't, then they just have to put in whatever is required, however many caliper inches are required above that, but not give them credit for the trees that are required for the landscaping to mitigate the existing trees.
Yeah.
Just mitigate the existing protected trees.
They're already there.
Yeah. So,
Were you making an amendment?
well, if there's another, yeah, let's go through. If we have a consensus, because I don't know quite what we would amend to, but if we have a consensus, then I'd like to make an amendment to that.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding on the mitigation fee language. You talk about if the developer's developing residential property is not going to live in it, there's 50%, 40% if it's non-residential. Is there a rule for if a homeowner develops his own property, are they assessed a mitigation fee also? Because it's not addressed in this language.
You want me to go ahead? The state law, I'm sorry, the state law that was amended in the last legislative session did not provide an exemption for existing homeowners. Now, if it's an existing residential property in Pearland, the ordinance does not apply to them already under our ordinance.
Okay, but if somebody purchases a new piece of land and they build a house on it, they're not exempted from it.
They would not be exempt.
Okay.
And
Fee mitigation doesn't apply to them.
the fee mitigation credit would not apply to them. They would pay 100% mitigation fee. And that's assuming they could not mitigate on site.
Well, it doesn't give them the ability to mitigate under this language. It doesn't apply to a landowner that develops his own property.
Well, under our ordinance, if a person develops just a single residential property and they have to come in there and take trees off the property, if they can mitigate on site with the tree mitigation, this ordinance is irrelevant because they can meet those mitigation requirements by planting trees on site. This is only getting a fee credit whenever you are going to plant some on site, and you'll get some credit for those for any fee that you do have to pay. Because there's many instances where there is a mitigation that's done on site, and then there's also a fee that has to be paid. And for simplicity's sake, just an example would be, let's say a person comes in and they are going to clear 100 inches of protected trees off of their property. So a total of 100 inches are going. And they come in and say, I'm going to mitigate on site 30 inches. That means there's 70 inches of mitigation that are left unaccounted for. Those 70 inches are going to have to be mitigated through the tree mitigation fee, which is, in most cases, for most trees, it may be $200 per inch. So you got 70 inches at $200 per inch. Now what's going to happen is that the 30 inches that they mitigated on site, 30 inches of the 70 inches that they're going to have to pay a fee for, they'll get a 50% credit. So they'll only have to pay $100 per inch for that fee mitigation fee for 30 inches of the 70 inches that they're having to pay a fee for. And I see Councilmember Carbone laughing. It's like, yes, and we can thank the state for coming up with this for us to have to go back and do these calculations. But that's how that would be calculated in that instance. In most cases, you're thinking of this is going to be a residential development where you have a developer coming in and developing multiple lots is what this was really designed to address. It wasn't designed to address a single lot where somebody comes in and says, I'm going to buy an acre and I'm going to build a house on this property. And in that particular case, there's not an exception for them. Their options would be to pay a full fee or to mitigate on site to the full extent of whatever their mitigation requirements would be.
You know, I'd like to pull this too as well, hearing that, because we've seen in Green Tea in some of the older areas where we have had some tear downs that I think will end up having some mitigation. I mean, I'm just thinking about my own house. If whenever I sell it, somebody wants to tear down and rebuild, one of my trees could be close to 100 inches. And, you know, that's the next question. I've got 2 trees that don't have leaves on them yet that are fairly large. So, you know, what's the case if the tree's dead?
And I just want to clarify, while the state law didn't require the city to give credit in that instance,
Right.
a single-family residence where somebody's going to live, there's nothing that would prohibit the council from having your ordinance amended to allow the credit in that instance.
Yeah, so I'd like to pull it and really dig into this a little bit more when it looks at redevelopment of single-family lots.
Councilmember,
For sure.
what this amendment does is adopts what the state adopted in legislation last year, which we're already enacting because we're required to. So it doesn't change the current regulations in place for a single-family residential development. So I would, if we can adopt this, because we're already putting this in place, and it doesn't change the rules, but then we can come back and look at, we have had preliminary discussions with the city attorney's office and with the urban forester about trying to come up with some credit allowances for developments. And we can continue those discussions or bring something forward in the future for you all to consider.
Okay, and I'm okay with that. I just want something, and I mean, you know, it is unfortunately personal to me because my sister dealt with the same thing with trees my grandfather planted, and we had to, and it was just like, you know, we added these, and now we're trying to take them away, and you're going to penalize us for doing that. So I would like to look at that because I do want to see the older areas redevelop, and I don't want trees to get in the way because I've stated it several times. If you look at a picture of Pearland from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, we have more trees in Pearland now than we ever thought we would, going back to where we started from. This is a prairie.
Council, any further, Councilman Reed, did you want to tune in on?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So with respect to liquor stores, I actually agree with Councilmember Ordino to the extent that, you know, looking at this map, there's a lot of places that sell liquor, you know, and I don't think that the actual liquor store is the worry in the sense of liquor stores. However, you know, I disagree. You know, having a chain of liquor stores or a whole bunch of liquor stores up and down one street kind of makes a city in general look somewhat tacky. And then there's other things that, you know, can add or at least aesthetically degrade or the look of a city. We're here, at least looking at item C, it says 2,500-foot buffer and then 1,000-foot buffer at the minimum between stores. And since we're trying to regulate commerce and prevent these liquor stores from being close to each other, and I also see in item D, I'm looking at page 3 of 24, it says 300 feet from a parcel that has direct access from a local street into a residential subdivision. I think we also may want to address, or I think we need to address the distance from schools. Since we're making this change, the distance that a liquor store has from a school. Right now, the minimum is 300 feet. State law requires us to have a minimum of 300 feet, but we can increase that to as high as we want. I'm sorry, we can increase that up to 1,000 feet. And so I think we might want to look at maybe increasing it to at least something like 500 feet. If we can put 1,000-foot buffer or make them have 1,000-foot buffer amongst themselves, you know, I think, you know, at least adding that in as a safety measure for any schools that exist now or that could come. Specifically, Jameson is right off of Broadway, and, you know, who knows what's going to come in that shopping center right across the street from it. And so, well, I mean, or down the street from it. You know, if we're doing this and we're going to regulate commerce, why not just go ahead and add, you know, the 500 feet for schools? It makes sense. You know, and we're saying right now they can't be within 1,000 feet of 2,500 feet of each other, 1,000 foot with a variance. So, along with that amendment that Councilmember Perez proposed, I'd like to also, you know, maybe have us think about making an amendment to increase the 300 feet specifically for liquor stores to 500 feet.
I like to have a workshop with
from a school.
I understand where you're coming from, and I think it's a good deal to do that, but using Councilmember Ardeno's point previously, why do it if everybody's going to be coming out drinking heavy in one of the other places? He was saying they're going to go to the package store and get their liquor and take off, and that's fine, and I understand that. And but the other things that sell liquor by the drink, that's why I don't think this property down here is going to develop. We went through that same thing with them being at Shady Crest and selling beer and liquor, and want them to put up a masonry fence, and I see it backs up for sale now.
Well, that one didn't pass.
I know.
Yeah, but
Well, they did come back and say if they were going to be able to do that, and they put a masonry fence in between the property, Shady Crest School over there. But now the whole thing's back up for sale again.
But
That doesn't make any difference.
my argument would be why not for a restaurant with on-site consumption? And if you change that right now, I'd have to go back and measure, but I think Gringo's right here down the street is out of line because it's property line to property line.
well, Gringos, Emma's. I mean, there'd be a number of restaurants that probably would end up having
And
that. I mean, I guess at this point we can't change that. I agree with
you
you. I
can.
mean, well, we can't go back and tell these folks to close down. But I mean, we're sitting here, we're trying to regulate commerce for liquor stores.
Some of us are.
I agree with what you're saying that you can go there and get immediately drunk or intoxicated, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't matter if you're buying liquor or if you're buying wine at Gringo's or at Emma's. But while we have the ability, and since this is on the table for liquor stores specifically, because that's what we're talking about, even though they showed us a diagram that, I mean, it looks like you could buy liquor all throughout Pearland, besides in the residential neighborhoods. But since they're showing us this diagram, why not also take care of the schools that exist or that could potentially exist along, or in the areas where a liquor store could possibly be? For instance, off of 35, what's the name of that new neighborhood?
Baker's Landing?
Baker's Landing. I mean, there's supposed to be a commercial portion to that that could possibly end up being, a liquor store in there. I'm not sure how far the distance is. I mean, it's not right next to a school, but you never know what's going to come. And so,
I mean, the state law differentiates schools from any public schools. Let's also talk about that. State law is public schools. Private schools still fall under a normal commercial, and it states property line to property line, not door to door. So if we change that, it's going property line to property line.
I understand that.
So there's already a stricter ruling on there, and I'm still confused by why, if we're going to talk about this, let's talk about places that serve alcohol. Let's not just take liquor stores because we don't like those, because I just can't wrap my head around how that's a bigger threat than someone that actually serves on site and someone gets in a car and leaves. So we need to look at that. And then my issue becomes, we've had these within those boundaries for decades, and there has been no complaints that I'm aware of to shut these down or move them further. So I'm just not in support of it.
But I think, too, I think Councilmember Reed was talking about, too. I mean, anytime's a good time to stop a bad decision. You probably can't correct the past, but you can also correct the future, though. You can do that.
When did it become a bad decision, I guess, is my question. And again, are we going to look at all places that serve liquor?
Well, when this first passed, it became not a bad decision. The voters voted and said that they wanted this, right? I agree with you there. I agree with you that there's a lot of places that you can drink. And I know for a fact more people are going to get intoxicated from a bar, or not a bar, but a bar at Emma's or a bar
on site.
I'm sorry, a bar on site. Let me stop saying the name of place. Yeah. A bar on site than they will at a liquor store, obviously, right? The liquor store is more aesthetically displeasing to most people, specifically that live in Pearland. When this law first passed, we decided as a council, I don't know if Councilmember Owens, you weren't on, but we decided as a council that it needed to be regulated to a certain extent. And so we made all liquor stores, before they could open, come to us for a CUP. Now we've decided to, we saw how they've been opening. One or two are right across the street from each other. We've had citizens come in and complain. And so, we're responding to that. But when we're responding, I'm saying, why don't we go ahead and respond accordingly and make sure, like Councilmember Owen said, that we look out for the future. We can't correct the past with respect to liquor stores. If we could go back, so many years and make a change as to, whether or not a restaurant that has a large bar opens up right across the street from, wherever a school or right next to each other, then, maybe we would be talking about that now, but we can't go back and.
I doubt we would, because nobody's complained to us about it, and government bodies have a tendency to talk about things when people complain, number one. And number two, the argument on liquor stores, you kind of made my argument for me is, it is a CUP. This body has approved every liquor store with its location. So why are we attempting to change some rules when this body can override them at any time? I'm a little baffled.
I agree. If it's a CUP and it's going to stay a CUP, then it doesn't matter the distance. And to get in on this argument, we have 7 liquor stores across the city. 7. Now, did the market not figure this out? It's saturated. Nobody else has come to us in months for a permit. Nobody else wants to be here. The market's saturated. And if they do, it's probably going to be a long time from now before they do. So I don't know. I think it's taking care of itself. I think everything the way we have it is fine. I don't know that we really need to make any changes to it.
Not to dismiss the argument. I know we get a lot of people that are talking about the spacing. I just don't know. I'm too much of a pragmatist to understand what exactly is the problem we're attempting to solve. No, but I understand the people complaining, the perception that we're trying to get out ahead of. But if we have a liquor store, or actually if we have a Gringo's that's 200 feet further from a school, what problem does that solve? Most of the time, the school is not open at the same time that they're serving liquor. And it's not really like the elementary school kids can go over there and walk in distance and grab a shot. So, not to be dismissive of the argument, if I'm missing something, help me get there, because I don't know practically by increasing the spacing what we're resolving.
Well, if that's the case, then, you again, like he just said, like Councilman Warno just said, you made his argument. Why are we even talking about this then? At the end of the day, we make the decision to where liquor stores go. If somebody comes up on the corner of Cullen and 518 and says they want a liquor store, we can decide yes or no. We can look at a map just like this and say, you know what? This restaurant's right next door. This other liquor store is 2 blocks down. Why put this in place for our own selves? Why not just say, hey, we decided that 2 liquor stores are going to go right across the street from each other. We made that decision. And so the whole thing with schools is, hey, look, let's watch out for it now. There's big kids in middle school. I'm not talking about in elementary schools. Jameson's not an elementary school. It's a middle school. So, who knows what could happen? We're not talking about getting shots. We're not talking about going over there. You can't buy shots from a package store, right? And so, like Councilmember Warno said, if that's the case, then why are we even talking about this? I'm just saying, hey, let's add these other additional protective measures just in case. The city of Houston does 1,000 feet. So, and they're no zoning at all. So,
That's why they had to do 1,000 feet, because they don't have any zoning.
But
come up with floodplain mitigation requirements.
Yeah, they got a lot of problems, right? But at the end of the day, we do have zoning. We're just going by the state minimum, which is 300 feet. We don't have to add it. I'm saying, hey, since it's out there, since we're making a decision on this, and this is gonna come to a vote, why not take into account, hey, let's think about the schools as well. If we're going to take into account making them 1,000 feet or 2,500 feet from each other, and we're worried about the entrance to a neighborhood. People don't want to walk out their doors, I'm assuming, and see a liquor store.
Can we agree to this? Maybe a compromise. I think that what we're doing with the liquor stores was something we discussed in a workshop. We gave staff direction. we kind of all agreed to this, and then that's what they presented. With what you're requesting, even though we discussed it in there, it's kind of, I would say, since it's holistic to every place that sells alcohol, I will second, if you wish, to have a discussion on that item particularly, but outside of modifying this, I think we don't really agree on this, and I think we need to have a discussion as to what we want to amend it to or what we want to change in the UDC before staff makes any changes.
It looks like this is getting ready to get pulled anyways. I mean, from what I've heard, or at least parts of it.
Well, I just want to pull the trees, but I think the liquor stores are fine.
Well, they're covering up the liquor store. You know, the thing about it, though, is we're probably not going to be able to change it altogether on there, but I do think that anytime's a good time to stop a bad decision on there. And we've always talked about, and even Mayor, you said it, we want to build along so it look like Sugar Land through there. But if you go and look at Sugar Land, you look at 518, you're looking at two totally different things. I think that, there's a better use of the property than putting a liquor store in it.
I think Sugar Land has liquor stores.
Well, they do. But
They have a lot of liquor
the thing about it
stores.
is, we all say, well, we can bring it back to council.
Have a lot of
and turn it-
restaurants that serve
Yeah,
on
we can
premise.
turn it down if we bring it back to council, and that's true, but usually it's a 6-1 vote for it.
Councilmember Reed, would you want to have that discussion item in a future workshop about spacing of any liquor store from a school, separate from this discussion?
I would not be in favor of that.
Not the discussion?
Not the discussion.
Mr. Peterson, I was going to ask you a question. I thought I was going to ask you, we ought to workshop this. I think we're doing it tonight, but I think it's the wrong way to do it. You feel comfortable if we just pull this thing and pass it until a future agenda and do a workshop on it? And we're talking trees that we have a discussion on. We're talking about liquor stores. We're talking about distance from schools. And
We do still have food trucks we haven't talked about yet.
Honestly, Mayor, I don't know what else. I mean, you're kind of doing that now, as was said, and the tree section, we're trying to get that compliant with the last state law, and that's really not changing the status quo. We could be talking about any one of these things ad infinitum. I don't know if there's a consensus to adopt what's been here. I mean, Mr. McDonald already said he wants to bring back something on the tree mitigations. So we're going to do that over and above what's here tonight. So, it might behoove you to consider what's here tonight as a package and then go from there later, I guess, on at least that piece.
your suggestion, we pass the item and come back and adjust it later.
That's one choice.
I would say I'm comfortable with us passing the component of the liquor store ordinance and the component of the tree ordinance to get it conform to state law. But I'd like to, in the nearest workshop, bring a discussion item where we can talk about credits for tree mitigation, so that we can look at making that an adjustment in the subsequent UDC.
And I'll echo that. I don't agree with everything in here, but I can pass them if we're going to come back and look at cleaning some of it up. And I don't want to kill the poor mobile food units that we all like, I guess.
Just so I'm clear, and Clay, you all had a workshop for us on the liquor stores, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And the trees, right?
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go back and do this again?
You can. No.
I mean, the workshop worked, didn't it?
We're still doing it.
Mayor, if I can jump in and kind of quote Councilman Owens, anytime's a good time to stop a discussion, so I'll call for the question.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second on the floor. Mr. Secretary?
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
This is for the motion
No,
as.
This is just a vote on the motion. Councilmember Carbone
No.
called the question.
He called
Got
the
to
question.
vote on.
For or against?
We're okay moving forward with the vote. This is
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Voting on the ordinance, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Councilmember Orden, no.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-2. Oh, yeah, missed a little.
We're about to
Counted
fix
you
it.
before.
Aye.
Now we're 5-2.
5-3, With that information in the record,
That's just first reading, so we'll do it again in 2 weeks.
I'm going to move to item 6, new business, item 6, and ask Councilmember Owens if he'll put that on the table for us. Item 6. Low discussion item.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, we're in discussion, staff report.
Yes, Mayor and council members, this is an item associated with the original consent for Municipal Utility District Number 69, which was the utility district that the council consented to for the future development of the Massey Oaks development. And as illustrated in the AR write-up, essentially this is a housekeeping chore. The original consent, when they purchased that property, they purchased it from a different owner. That owner is not the same owner that entered into the development agreement. And so the original developer assigned this to the developer by a different name. And as a result, the Attorney General's office is requiring that the consent reflect that name. And so this is really ratifying the original consent, but by petition of the name of the new owner, which essentially is the same developer by different name.
Okay.
And I believe, is somebody here from Med 69? I think it was originally anticipated they would be here, but it doesn't appear they're here.
Okay. Council, have any question on that item?
I'm going to abstain, Mayor.
You what?
Abstaining.
Abstain, okay. Any other question or comment? We have one abstention. Mr. Secretary, we do have motions on the floor.
Councilmember Owens. Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino abstained. Councilmember Little. Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with one abstention.
Okay. That information on the record. I've moved up to new business item 7. Councilmember Carbone, would you place this with honor?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, second and final reading of ordinance 1556. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second on the floor. Staff report.
So the city assesses impact fees, which by state law can only cover a portion of utility improvements that are required by new growth and development. Cities had this for this impact fees to help offset that cost to the rest of the ratepayers. We're required to review and update those fees at least every 5 years. We provided that information in a presentation last time, so this is the second reading for that consideration.
Okay. Council, have any question or comment on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens. Motion passed 6-0 with Councilmember Ordino absent from the chamber.
Okay. Moving to new business item 8, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action resolution number R2018-67. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thanks, sir. With the city's surface water treatment plant, there's 3 different design contracts that were identified. We had a firm for this package number 3, chose to change that firm, went through a process and evaluated proposals and recommended to you tonight for Stantec. This deals with a lot of the pumps and the piping to get the waters away from and distributed from the distribution plant in the future. So it's recommending the award to Stantec Consulting.
Council have any question or comment on this item? Calhoun?
Thank you, Mayor. On the kind of financial snapshot, we talk about available funding sources of 141 million, then future expenditures of 144 million, so there's a deficit of 2.5 million. How do we anticipate funding that? And is that not current? It looks like it's currently not budgeted.
We're trying to give you the most current snapshot as we are continuing in the preliminary engineering stages. And so some of these numbers are reflecting some of the numbers we're coming in as the market is changing. We're putting forth those current efforts while we are continuing to do the early stages of design and early stages of program management within our in our department and scoping what we need. So we're looking to continue to move that needle down and get us back within where we are for budget.
Bless you.
But wanted to provide that picture for you where you're at right now.
And if we're not able to bring it down, will we be able to go back to the TWDB to get funding?
We are exploring those options as well, and then also taking a look as we implement our water meter program as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I could, to tag onto that, would there be a possibility when we get into the actual construction to possibly scale something down, seeing as it appears our city limits likely won't expand as we had planned?
Absolutely. That is with that new wrinkle that has come forth and where we are moving with current growth and also limiting of the city limits. Absolutely. We're looking at that.
Council, any further question or comments?
Yes, Mayor. Do we have a list of all the team members that are sub to Stantec? Was that
Yes,
part
we
of the
do.
review package? Can you confirm that the previous bid winner, Tannenbaum, is not a part of the team?
It is. They are not.
Okay. Thank you.
That was an interesting comment. Any further comments, Councilman Reed?
Who are the subs?
I'd be happy to provide you a list a little later if necessary, or if you give me a few minutes, it's going to take me a few minutes to look them up.
Yeah.
I do want to know, but we can go ahead and move on.
I'll be happy to bring forth that list later.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any further comments, council? Secretary, we do have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino,
Aye.
Councilmember Little,
Aye.
Councilmember Perez,
Aye.
Councilmember Owens,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Moving to new business item number 9, Councilmember Reed, would you do the honor?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2018-11. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second on the floor. Discussion, staff report.
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a resolution with the Riverstone Ranch development that's been in place for a number of years, but conditions and sort of the requirements have altered, and we've been in discussions with them trying to find a mutually agreeable path forward. And this agreement recognizes some trade of the lands, some construction requirements for pathways within the development, and if it is approved, then this will free up them to move forward on some of their platting and get going with the residential developments.
Okay. Council, any comments from this item? Councilman Perez?
Yes, Mayor. Is there a trigger, and if so, what is the trigger for the additional boulevard section of Hughes Road to be built from the county line into Barry Rose?
Councilmember Perez, could you please repeat your question for me, please? I was looking it up.
When we built Hughes Road, which is the Barry Rose extension up to the up to Harris County boundary, We only built 2 lanes of a boulevard section. What is the plan, and is the developer triggered to contribute to build the other portion of that boulevard section?
There's no development trigger associated with that. However, we are actually in the process of evaluating that road for the upcoming tip call with HGAC to submit that in as a program.
Okay.
These are built. These are built.
Councilman Perez, the
Councilmember
additional
Owens,
option
you got
could
a
be
comment?
if we take a look at the bond program as well.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to see if it was on the Riverstone Ranch or not.
Council, any further comment or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino,
Aye.
Councilmember Little, Councilmember Perez,
Aye.
Councilmember Owens,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone,
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Moving to item number 9 on our agenda. There were no requests for council mayor issues for future council agenda. Moving to executive session under Texas Government Code Section 551.072 for deliberations regarding real property, regarding the acquisition of real property. Section 551.071 for consultation with the city attorney regarding the legal advice on matters subject to the attorney-client privilege. Number 3, Section 551.074, personnel matters regarding appointments and removal of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. New business, item number 4, Section 551-087 regarding economic development negotiations. Obviously, we could discuss this with staff and other individuals that are permitted into the executive session, but we can't make a decision in executive session. And it must be brought back to open session for handling. And we do have 4 items, new business item 10 through 13 on our agenda for council to make a decision on when to return from executive session. So we will recess into executive session at 8:24. What happened to Woody? Yes. Council has returned from executive session at 9:59. Moving to new business, item number 10, council action regarding the acquisition of real property.
Yes, Mayor, I'd recommend a motion, City Council authorizing staff to proceed with the acquisition of real property, specifically property for the right-of-way of the Max Road project, as discussed in executive session. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Staff need any further request? Secretary, we do have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Move to new business item number 2, item number 11. Council action regarding legal advice on matters subject to the attorney-client privilege.
Mayor, there will be no action recommended on that item.
All right. Moving to new business item number 12, council action regarding the appointment and removal of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
No action on that item either, Mayor. No action.
No action on that. New business item 13, council action regarding economic development negotiations.
Yes, Mayor. Recommended, there will be two separate items here. The first item is a recommended motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to enter into an amended tax abatement agreement with prospect number 1401, and to authorize the Pearland Economic Development Council to enter into an amended loan agreement with prospect 1401. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Abstain.
Councilmember Little? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with one abstention.
Moving to other business, item number 10, which permits me to adjourn
No,
this
Mayor,
meeting.
Mayor, there was a second motion.
Sorry.
We have one
Got
more.
one more motion.
13 has two parts.
There's-
There's a second motion for the economic development item.
Regarding economic development negotiations. Sorry
Yes,
about
sir.
that. I had my thumb over it.
Yes, sir. I'd recommend another motion now for approving a development agreement with Prospect 1407 and a reimbursement agreement with the Pearland Economic Development Corporation for drainage, demolition, and roadway improvements associated with Prospect number 1407, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreements. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ordino?
Abstain.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with one abstention.
Okay. Moving on to business, other business is adjournment, which I shall do at 10:02.